What happens when your emotions take over? Your work suffers, your relationships break, your peace disappears. Anger, fear, anxiety, they are the invisible warlords who command your life. You have been their servant for so long you might even believe their voice is your own. But what if I told you there is a way to dethrone them? Japanese philosophers solved this problem centuries ago, not with suppression, but with transformation. They developed 4 simple techniques to stay calm in the heart of the storm, and they work just as well in the chaos of your world today. The first method will instantly change how you handle every emotional moment you face. It is a technique refined through centuries of real-world testing, born from the crucible of life and death. Part 1. The Warrior's Stance, Heiho Kaden Sho. In the year 1632, the master swordsman Yagyū Munenori stood calmly as 3 assassins burst into the room, blades drawn, moving toward the shogun he was sworn to protect. The shogun's other guards tensed, their hands trembling on their own swords. But Munenori's face showed no fear, no anger, just a profound and unsettling clarity. The assassins hesitated, confused by his perfect composure. In that single moment of their uncertainty, Munenori moved like lightning, disarming the first attacker while becoming a human shield between the threat and his lord. The remaining assassins, seeing their advantage completely lost, retreated rather than face his unshakable presence. What everyone in that room witnessed was not a man suppressing his fear. It was something far more powerful. Munenori had transformed his emotional position entirely. This is his core teaching, a secret passed down through Japan's ruling class for centuries. Emotions are not things that happen to you. They are stances you consciously adopt. This goes against everything you've ever experienced. You feel anger rising within you, fear gripping your heart, anxiety overwhelming you, as if these feelings are invaders you must either fight off or surrender to. Munenori taught that this is a fundamental mistake. Just as a swordsman changes his physical stance based on the battlefield, you can shift your emotional stance. He identified 5. The mountain, projecting absolute strength and stability, an unmovable presence. The river, flowing, observant and neutral. You do not advance or retreat. You simply watch with perfect clarity until the situation reveals its truth. The reed, appearing to yield while actually redirecting pressure. The rigid tree breaks in the wind. The reed bends and then stands tall again. The wind, unexpected sudden movement that changes the entire dynamic of a conflict. The shadow, a complete repositioning that makes direct opposition impossible. Think about your own life. When you are criticized unfairly at work, what is your default stance? Most people react with either the mountain, aggressive, defensive anger, or the reed, emotional collapse and surrender. Both are positions of weakness because they are reactions, not choices. A warrior trained in this method recognizes their default reaction rising and in that moment makes a conscious choice. Instead of lashing out, they might shift to the river, becoming a neutral observer. This allows them to see the situation without the distortion of their own ego. The beauty of this is its simplicity. You don't need years of meditation. The next time you feel a powerful emotion rising inside you, simply ask yourself, what position am I taking right now? And what position would serve me better? That single question is the beginning of your freedom. You move from being positioned by your emotions to positioning yourself emotionally. But Munenori knew that choosing your stance isn't enough. You have to be able to hold it in the critical space between the trigger and your response. Part 2. The Sacred Pause. Ma. The tea master Sen no Rikyū once served Japan's most powerful and volatile warlord, a man known for executing servants for the smallest mistakes. During a critical ceremony with all the other lords watching, Rikyū accidentally spilled a single drop of tea. The room fell dead silent. Everyone knew the warlord's legendary temper. The man's hand moved slightly toward his sword. Instead of panicking or apologizing frantically, Rikyū created a deliberate pause. In that brief interval, what Japanese philosophy calls ma, he studied the fallen drop of tea. Then, with perfect composure, he used his utensil to transform the accident into an elegant, deliberate part of the ceremony, as if it had been intentional all along. The warlord's hand relaxed. By the end, he expressed a newfound respect for the tea master. He later said that Rikyū's moment of pause showed more courage than any battlefield charge. This story contains a profound secret to emotional mastery. The concept of Ma represents the meaningful space between things, the silence between notes that makes the music, the emptiness in a room that gives it form, and most importantly, the interval between your emotional trigger and your response. In that tiny space lies your entire freedom. Watch a child. They feel anger and instantly lash out. They feel fear and immediately retreat. Their reaction is automatic. Now watch a master in any field. There is always a space, however brief, between what happens to them and how they respond. This isn't hesitation, it is presence. In our world, this sacred space has been almost completely destroyed. Messages demand an immediate response. News triggers an instant reaction. Conflicts escalate because no one creates the space for clarity to emerge. Yet the solution for you remains as simple now as it was then. Create a pause, a single deep breath before you respond to criticism, an hour before you answer that heated email, a night of sleep before you make a major emotional decision. The beauty of Ma is that the pause itself becomes a powerful response. When someone attacks you and you simply create space instead of immediately defending or counterattacking, the entire dynamic of the fight shifts. That space often accomplishes more than any words ever could. This interval is where your true emotional mastery is born, not in controlling your emotions, not in expressing them perfectly, but in the sacred space where your choice becomes possible. Part 3. The Water Mind, Mizu no Kokoro. You've chosen your stance. You've created the sacred pause, but what quality of mind should you fill that space with? When Morihei Ueshiba, the founder of Aikido, was challenged by 5 men attacking him at once, witnesses described an extraordinary scene. As they rushed him from different directions, Ueshiba moved like water. He was calm on the surface, yet powerful in his movements. Without any visible effort, he redirected each attacker's energy, causing them to fall harmlessly aside. But the most remarkable thing was his face. Throughout the entire fight, it was completely serene. This was not a man suppressing his emotions. This was a man who had achieved Mizu no Kokoro, a mind like water. Water embodies 3 qualities that are the perfect metaphor for emotional mastery. 1. When still, it reflects reality perfectly. Like a mountain lake, it shows an undistorted image of the world. This is the quality of clear perception, free from your own emotional coloring. 2. When flowing, it adapts to any obstacle. It changes its form without resistance, yet it always remains water. This is the quality of responsiveness without being rigid. 3. When directed, it generates immense power, not through brute force, but through alignment with natural principles. This is the quality of creating impact without exhausting yourself. In your modern life, you face challenges that seem like immovable rocks, a difficult boss, an unexpected setback, a persistent problem. Most people either fight against these rocks, exhausting themselves in the process, or they surrender completely, losing their integrity. The Water Mind teaches a third way, not rigid resistance, not passive surrender, but adaptive harmony. It does not struggle with the obstacle. It flows around it while always maintaining its essential nature. You can cultivate this quality with 3 simple breaths. On the first breath, imagine still water, reflecting reality without distortion. On the second breath, visualize flowing water moving around obstacles without resistance. On the third breath, feel the directed power of water aligned with nature, not against it. When you are faced with criticism that would normally make you defensive, this water mind transforms the entire experience. The criticism is no longer a threat you have to resist. It is simply information to be reflected upon, an obstacle to flow around, or energy to be redirected toward your own growth. The water mind gives you perfect adaptability, but to maintain it requires one final element: Part 4. The Path of Small Steps, Kaizen. In 1945, Japan was in ruins. Toyota, once a thriving company, faced extinction. The challenges confronting its leader, Sakichi Toyota, would have overwhelmed most people. The natural response would have been some dramatic, heroic action. Instead, Toyota applied a philosophy that would transform his company and his country. Kaizen. Continuous improvement through small, patient steps. Rather than trying to rebuild everything at once, he focused on improving one tiny element of production each day. One process, one component, one single movement at a time. To outsiders, his approach seemed maddeningly slow. But within a decade, this patient accumulation of tiny improvements had not only saved Toyota, but had turned it into one of the most successful companies on Earth. The wisdom of Kaizen goes against all our modern instincts. We are addicted to dramatic breakthroughs, to complete reinventions, to the fantasy of the overnight success. You try to transform your entire emotional landscape at once, and you fail. Instead, Kaizen teaches you to focus on improving your response to one specific trigger. Perhaps it's that email from a particular colleague that always sets you off, or that family dinner conversation that reliably creates tension. Your goal is not to become a perfect master of your emotions overnight. Your goal is to make your response to that one single trigger just 1% better this week. Not perfect, just better. Like water slowly reshaping stone, these tiny, consistent improvements will accumulate into a profound transformation. The practice is this. Each week, choose just one emotional trigger in your life and make one small improvement in how you respond. This isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Kaizen is so powerful because it aligns with how you actually change. Small improvements compound over time until they appear to be effortless mastery, precisely because that mastery was developed naturally, not through force. True transformation does not come from a single dramatic change, but from patient, relentless refinement. One small step, then another, then another. These 4 Japanese approaches are not isolated techniques. They are a natural sequence that will transform how you experience your own emotions. Heiho Kaden Sho teaches you to consciously choose your emotional stance. Ma creates the sacred space for that choice to be made. Mizu no Kokoro fills that space with a mind that is clear, adaptable, and powerful. And Kaizen ensures that this transformation lasts, building a mastery that appears effortless precisely because it was earned, one small, unbreakable step at a time. Like the Japanese masters who refined these approaches over centuries, you will discover that true emotional mastery is not about perfect control. It is about perfect harmony, a way of being that will transform how you experience every single aspect of your life.